Hello lovely people, welcome back to the garden on a very grey, damp day. Now, before I get stuck into work here at the table and a little chat about something, I want to show you something in the garden first which relates to the chat. So, put your Wellington boots on. I've got mine on. Can I get my leg up that far? Oh. Get your welly boots on because it's sopping underfoot. Right then, this is what I want to show you. Today I am planting broad beans and garlic in the ex-tomato beds. You saw when I took the tomatoes out, I'd given them a bit of a scattering of chicken manure pellets and a bit of a rake. That was pretty much it. Since then, in the last few days, my focus, and I'll show you why in a second, has been weeding, and both these beds have been weeded and given another raking. So I'm really happy to see that the whole of number 2 bed and the whole of number 1 bed are now weed free. It has taken forever because this whole path especially, we started to have quite a lot of rain in September and it was still warm, which the weeds loved. There was nothing through the summer because of drought. See, weed free, weed free, weed free. I'm not showing off. What I want to show you is what all of this looked like a few days ago. Oh my goodness. So this is new to me since last year, and it's proliferating. And you might just think, oh, it's grass, what are you talking about? But it's not like any grass weed I've ever had before. Previous grass weed, I get a clump, pull it up, it'll sort of look like a clump, but it's actually one plant. Every blade of grass here is an individual plant. Let me show you here. So, every single one of those blades is an individual plant. Oh, and because actually it won't be so bad here because I've hardly walked on this path throughout the summer, and because it was covered in the squash. You can see that path, grass as well. But, oh my goodness, in the tomato path, because I've walked up and down that path over and over again all summer with cans of water, making me even heavier as I walk. So the ground is really compacted, and so like this one I've just literally pulled out. They would not pull out. I had to pretty much excavate every single one. Oh my goodness. Now, part of me wonders if this has come with the horse muck, because I had the horse muck here for the first time last year, and I had a bit over there. So yeah, that's my wondering. But my goodness, bit of a mammoth job to get it out. So these 2 beds, bed number 3 and bed 4, I haven't weeded yet. You can see in every path, these aren't quite so bad, but yeah, every path chock full of weeds. And especially that is how this whole section looked until yesterday. So I'm really glad I've got that done. You can also see that bed is now covered, that had squash in. That bed is mostly covered, that had courgette in. But yeah, the main thing is these 2 beds are now prepped and ready. I didn't dig them. I'm not no dig. I'm just not digging. But they're ready to receive the next crops. Right, let's pop back to the shed and have a little bit of a catch up. Right, time to divvy out the garlic, because I'm going to have 4 rows. So I want to divvy out my cloves equally between 4 pots. So I know I've got enough for each row. But yeah, just popping up to the garden now. What I wanted to chat about, try to keep it brief, is something that came up, was it yesterday? I think yesterday, with a friend who, I think that one got an extra one. I don't know, I'd been at it with the weeding for hours, probably about 3 or 4 hours. I've been trying to do that sort of most days, in the morning, go home, do other stuff, other work at home. But anyway, yeah, she stopped by, say hello, have a bit of a chat. But she was feeling a bit fed up. She's not been able to be here much this year and feels that the allotment had got away from her. And I think probably I know a lot of you have been feeling that too from comments. And it prompted me to think about how I was feeling about the garden at this time as well. And it's kind of the same every year. Tired, really tired from the garden. Not tired of the garden, not quite, but tired from the garden. You know, if you think about it, if we go back to the beginning of the year, sort of from March onwards, it's pretty much non-stop, isn't it? You know, March, it's all about prepping the beds. For those of us who dig, or there are certain beds need digging, like the spud beds. So we're doing all that digging and bed prep, and at the same time we're seed sowing, and then we're getting into thinning out, pricking out, potting on of our seeds. Some seeds we're getting, sown direct. They might need thinning. We continue with the bed prep, and then we start to get to the stage of actually planting our seedlings, our plants out, and then we're building structures to support all the plants. And then we're getting into the height of the summer where, it's pruning and training of the plants and watering. My God, this year, the daily grind of watering, and on it goes. And then we get into September and October, and we're busy harvesting. And of course, with that goes hours and hours in the kitchen, washing, chopping, blanching, prepping, cooking, turning our gorgeous veggies into meals, whatever it is. It's relentless. And I think it's really easy to get to this time of year and, like I said, we feel tired. We're done in. The garden has worked brilliantly for us, but we're really done in. And I think it's all too easy to say, that's it, I'm done now, I'm finished, I'm going to come back in March next year. And yeah, we might have a few things in still. We might have some, carrots, parsnips, brassicas, that sort of thing. A few bits and bobs in. So we may sort of, in our mind, be thinking, well, I'll come to the allotment once a week. I'll come on a Sunday morning, do a bit of veg harvesting as part of my weekly shop. But that's kind of it. I'm out of here. What I would say, I get that feeling completely. I'm feeling it right now. I'm feeling like I am done. And I do actually really relish and cherish the 4 months off. November, December, January, February. It is like a sort of a holiday from the garden. It's time to rest, recharge. And as we move into the new year, it's time to get excited about planning that year's growing and browsing the seed catalogues, etc. But yeah, I get to this time of year and I kind of, I just think I could just walk away right now. Just go home, stay cozy indoors, read, whatever it is. But try and stick it out, try and stick with it, because actually, especially, I'm just checking my beans, especially at the moment where, at least for us in the UK, we've still got quite mild weather. We've got dry for a couple of days, but because we're having rain, the ground's quite moist. It really is the perfect time of year to sort of get on top of the garden again before you tuck it up for the winter and say goodbye until next year. The reason I wanted to show you those weeds, oh my God, that grass, unbelievable. So, in that compacted path, those roots were so tenacious. I mean, it took me the best part of an hour to do that one little mud path. Crazy. Anyway, if we all walk away now and just go, I'm fed up, I can't cope with that anymore, it's too daunting. By the time we come back in March, it's going to be far worse. Because all those weeds will take hold, Some of them will actually flower and seed, and the seed will blow around, even if over, the next few weeks. We're still really mild, as I said. So, much as it's tempting to think, I've got all my harvest in, I've done the garden, that's it till next year. Just have a change of mindset, have a change of mind that I'm going to the garden now. It's not about the plants and the harvests and all that. Now is the time when it's about the maintenance and really, like I said, really trying to get on top, especially if you feel like you've never really gotten on top of your garden. You might have had your plot for 2, 3, 4 years and feel like you've never really got on top of it. In terms of weeds, or there's always that one scruffy patch that you keep meaning to attend to. Now is the perfect time. The ground is soft enough for us to be able to excavate the weeds. Some of you may, on your site, some of you may be having a bonfire. Actually, by the time you see this, I'm still playing catch up from having that time off, so I'm actually filming this, I think it's the 14th of October. You won't see it till towards the end, but if you do see it in time, it's that time of year when, if your site is having a bonfire, now is the chance to get into the garden and gather together all that junky wood that's too rotten to build anything from. Get it organised so you can get it to your burn area in time. There might even be, on your bonfire day, it might be that you, like us, we have a work party that day when we do the gathering. Go and help with the gathering. But yeah, don't lock up your garden gate and walk away just yet. Use this as the perfect opportunity to tackle the weeds, tackle piles of rubbish, but also it might be the first opportunity, if you've always been playing catch up or chasing your tail a bit like I have this year, this may be your first opportunity as you're clearing beds and getting them covered, so we don't get weeds popping up, hopefully. It may be your first chance to stand back and think, actually, that bed is awkward. It's not really working for me. It might be the perfect time for you to rejig your beds, rejig the layout of the garden. This bit's too narrow, I can't get my wheelbarrow down. Okay, so I'll move that over. Whatever it is. But if you don't do any of that and only do one thing right now over the next couple of weeks or so, do the weeding. Get those pesky weeds out. Don't give them a chance to take a hold. Little bits of garlic skin. Don't give them the chance to proliferate. Right, now that's the garlic divvied up. Now I'm going to divvy up my broad beans. So, this might be too loud. The garlic were soft and spongy and not loud. Yeah, it's going to be too loud. 2 in there. So, right, I'll do this in a sec. But just to say very quickly, I'm going to sow mine direct today. The bed is ready. You could sow them, you could start them off in pots. I'm not going to start, I don't see the point for me in starting them off in pots because I've got a bed ready. So for example, if you didn't have a bed ready, start them in pots. But if you've got a bed ready, I like to do mine direct because A, it means I don't have to buy a big sack of compost or, some sort of sowing medium for the pots. And B, I don't have to transplant them later on. It just saves an extra job because, like I said, by the time we get into November, I am looking forward to a holiday from the garden. I mean, it won't be a complete holiday, of course it won't, but you know what I mean. Yeah, so I don't have to buy compost and I don't have to transplant them later on. So yeah, I start mine direct, dead easy. If I was starting them in pots, you see, it would take quite a bit of compost because the thing about broad beans is they really hate root disturbance. So they need their own pot and they need quite a deep pot. A loo roll would be perfect because it would use a bit less compost. But if you're in pots, make sure you've got a deep enough pot because you're going to be sowing the seed about 5 centimetres down, and you want a good 5 at least centimetres, that's what I mean, preferably even a bit longer, of space for the roots to develop. The other thing with broad beans, apart from hating root disturbance, they don't like getting pot bound. And I discovered this to my own detriment a few years ago when I sowed a few in pots as backup, and I didn't get them planted out in time, so the roots had swirled. When I say pot bound, the roots have gone out to the side, met resistance, so they start going around and around looking for a way out. And I planted them and I tried to tease them out a little bit, but they just never really got over that, and they came to nothing. So yeah, if you're not doing direct because you don't have a bed ready, put them in a pot, but make sure it's deep enough. Keep an eye on the bottom for the roots. When you've got a nice little sturdy plant, maybe 10 centimetres or so, 15 centimetres, get it planted out. The other thing, the reason I'm telling you now here rather than as I'm actually doing the planting, is bending over and doing stuff. It just doesn't. I'm discovering it just doesn't work in terms of voice and projection. But the other thing I will be doing is I'll make a drill about 5 centimetres deep, drop the seed in about every 20 to 25 centimetres, and then before I cover the drill, I'll be giving them all a little sprinkle of chili powder. This is something I've been doing for a few years now against the mice, and it seems, don't jinx yourself, Vivi, it seems to work for me. Actually, not on the top of the soil, not on top of the row, because the first sign of rain it'll just all wash away, but actually onto the seed where it is in the bottom of the drill before I cover it over. Mice leave them alone. So the broad beans will be 25 centimetres apart within the row and about 25 to 30 centimetres apart between the two long rows. I pack mine in. Books will tell you a metre between your double rows. I ain't got space to leave a metre bare in my garden. I will cover them with nets for now, just to stop the cats and foxes scratching on that newly disturbed gorgeous ground. It is not a litter tray. In the winter, I will keep an eye on the forecast, and once they're up, they'll come up. I should get about sort of 4 or 5 inches. I've just gone to inches, about 10 to 15 centimetres of growth now. Then they'll really slow down over the winter, and then come March they'll go fdoing, and they've got a bit of a head start on spring sown ones, and they'll romp away. So there will be a bit of plant right through the winter, tender. So if there's a forecast of frost, if it's, they'll tolerate, 1 or 0 for a couple of nights. But if it looks like we're going to have below 0 for quite a few nights, I'll come out, I'll have those nets in place, only the Enviro mesh, that's just the nets, and I'll leave those in place and then just put fleece over the whole lot, just to give them a little bit extra help. But there we go. So, as mentioned in that previous video, just quickly, in case you didn't see it, I am sowing Aqua Dolce and Super Aqua Dolce. They're mixed up because I saved my own seeds and they've just ended up mixed up. So, yeah. If you see Aqua Dolce in the name, you know it's an autumn sowing broad bean, or it can be sown in the autumn. Not all broad beans can be, but these are fine. They're hardier little things. Right, so I'm going to get that done. It's going to take me quite a while, and then we'll reconvene, and I have to sort of another. You see, that's the other thing at this time of year, isn't it? Every time I think the jobs list is getting shorter, I think of another job. That's fine. The sun's coming out. It's a quiet, still day. And the other thing I wanted to say, just briefly, honestly, briefly this time, before we get out there, is there is a slight bit of urgency to the work at the moment and the jobs that need doing. Planting the next crop is my priority job. Harvesting and planting is always the priority. The weeding and everything else, secondary. But the reason I'm pushing on today, even though I kind of fancied a day off from the garden, is because we have forecast in a few days' time. We've got rain forecast for, I think it looks like a fortnight, like 2 weeks of rain all day, every day. And it's just not going to be practical to be down here to do any gardening. So there's a little bit of time pressure of this window of the next sort of 2, 3, 4 days, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3 days, whatever, to get things done. So I'm going to shut up now, finish doing this, get everything planted and find the next job to do. Such a lovely ritual. Planting a bit of hope for next year. And these should shoot before we're properly into winter. So it will be some lovely, gorgeous, bright green to enjoy in the darker, colder days. Oh, the only thing is, it is very wet. As my gloves get muckier, the little cloves are sticking to them. Now that the garlic is in, I need some nets for it. The nets on the brassicas here I'm going to use for the broad beans. I'm going to dive into the compost bin again and get out whatever I can to mulch this. But I don't have enough mulch to take those nets off yet. So I'm short a pair of nets for the garlic. I thought, never mind, I'll use the shade netting for now. And when I took all the shade netting down, oh, look at these calendula and that gorgeous red of the chard. Yeah, and I took the shade netting down. Rather than stash it behind the shed, because I need to get to behind the shed, I thought, I know, I'll just dump it in the cold frame for now. Oh, I've disturbed you. Hey, buddy. Someone's having a nice little nap on my nets. You beautiful boy. So I think rather than disturb him, oh, yes, I'll put the nets out later on, once he's woken up and gone for a stroll. Sweet dreams, beautiful boy. cats are all being far too cute today. Rosie having a drink from the insect drinking station, despite the fact that I put a bowl of clean water down for her outside the shed. Sweetie, you're both very, very distracting. Hey, Rosie. No, sweet girl. Oh, lovely bird song. I'm really glad that's done. I'll show you in a second. Yeah, really, really pleased. That's another 2 beds to go through the winter. What have I got now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Parsnips are a half. All the chard, another half. 7 beds in action over the winter. Brilliant. But of course these 2 beds, the broad beans and the garlic, won't be for harvesting over winter. So I'm just suddenly sort of really zenning out. And I think that's kind of what I was getting at. It feels like ages ago. The top of the video, of course for you it was only a few minutes ago, wasn't it? But for me it's ages ago. It's taken me ages to get all of this planted. But yeah, it's that sort of how to put it, it's this rhythm I talk about the rhythm of the gardening year, and that sort of dictates the rhythm of the rest of my year. I was talking about that kind of 4-week holiday from the garden, which of course I'll still be coming to the garden and doing bits and pieces, but not the intense gardening that goes on from March to the end of October. So even the winter, that the rhythm of my day, so much of it is dictated by nature, the natural world, the garden, even though this is the natural world manicured. You know, like the fact that I tend to only read in the winter, as in read books. What else would you read, Vivi? Read minds, read palms. Yeah, I tend to only read in the winter because I'm spending less time in the garden. But back to today, there's that wonderful, it's incredibly repetitive action of popping a seed into a drill. You know, and there are 4 drills, and I can't help, even though I know how many seeds are in each row, I can't help as I seed each row, I sort of count them, and it becomes almost a meditation. FYI, there are 17 broad beans in each row, so 68 plants in total. It's a few less than normal. I didn't save quite as much seed as normal, and I gave quite a few to Paul. But yeah, that repetitive action of putting each seed in and counting as I go, slowly. And then the repetitive action of using my teaspoon to put a little tiny bit of chili on each one, and again, counting as I go. And all the while there's warmth in the air. There is brightness from moment to moment, bird song. And all the planting I've done for today is for next year, but in a way it's also the time I've taken today and the feeling I've let myself have. It's all recharging my soul for next year. Oh, I love it, even if it has been, I don't know why it feels tiring that this morning, but it's happy tiring. So yeah, back to what I was saying at the beginning, going all around houses today. Don't be too quick to turn your back on the garden. Especially if you are, like me and so many others, one of those people who thrives on sunshine and sunlight and brightness, and you know, you tend to dread the winter. While we've got these days, I mean, look, I'm in shirt sleeves. I don't even have a jumper on. Yeah, try and get out there and do stuff, and things like weeding, you know, when you're really, really busy in the garden throughout most of the season, weeding is like, it's just another job I've got to do, I haven't got time. But by this time of year, when generally there's a lot less else to do, a balmy day like today, it's quiet, there's a lovely breeze, it's like it's kissing my cheek every few minutes, a bit of warmth. Give yourself a 1 square metre patch even. Get yourself sat down and comfy. Pull your weeds. Lose yourself in that moment and lap up the last of this light that we're getting. And hopefully, you know, weeding will become a sort of a Zen practice for you. Right. Oh. I hope I'm able to share this mood and mode with you all. You know what, I'll do a tour soon, so I won't bother showing you exactly what I've done today. You saw what I was going to be doing anyway. We'll catch up on that properly when I do a tour. I think instead, for now, we will just take this moment to be quiet, to be gentle, to be calm, to be grateful. Actually, yeah, let's have that. Let's have that as our moment right now. To be grateful for every single bit of harvest we had this year. We've got a few more bits to come, but everything that's come out of the garden this year, every single mouthful is a treasure and a joy, and I celebrate it. Yay! All right, my lovelies, before I send you all to sleep, I will see you all again soon. But in the meantime, please look after yourselves. If you can, if the weather permits, get outside and lap up a little bit of air. Let the breezes kiss your cheeks. Let the sun shine. Let the sun, however weak it is, kiss the back of your neck. Until the next one, cheerio.